Hey, everyone. Get ready for a super fun story that's going to grab your attention and not let go. Imagine this, it's a bright, sunny afternoon. The sky is blue, the birds are chirping, and everything feels calm and happy. We're in a quiet little neighborhood where the houses sit in neat rows, and the grass is green and tidy. This is where our story starts, and trust me, it's going to be a wild one. Let me introduce you to Jake. Jake is a guy who lives in one of those houses. He's not super loud or fancy, he's just a regular dude. He likes simple things, like keeping his lawn nice and neat. He mows it every weekend with his little push mower, and he always waves at the kids riding their bikes down the street. Jake doesn't cause trouble. He doesn't throw big parties or make a lot of noise. He's the kind of guy who just likes to chill and enjoy his day. But here's what makes Jake special, he's got this quirky little garden gnome named Stumpy. Yep, Stumpy. It's not just any gnome, it's his favorite thing ever. Stumpy is small, about the size of a big water bottle, and he's got this bright red hat that sticks out like a cherry on a sundae. His face has a goofy grin, like he's always laughing at a silly joke. Stumpy's got a little white beard too, and he's holding a tiny shovel, like he's ready to dig up some treasure. Jake keeps Stumpy right by his front porch, sitting proudly on a little patch of dirt next to the steps. Every time Jake walks by, he smiles at Stumpy, like they're best buddies. Now, Jake's house is pretty normal. It's got a white door, a couple of windows with blue curtains, and a mailbox that's painted green. He's lived there for a while, and he likes it just the way it is. He's not trying to show off or be the coolest guy on the block. He just wants to live his life and enjoy his little gnome friend. To Jake, Stumpy isn't just a decoration, it's like a little piece of happiness that makes his day better. But here's where things start to get interesting. Someone in this quiet neighborhood is watching Jake. Not in a friendly way, like when your buddy waves from across the street. No, this is sneaky watching. Someone's peeking out their window, staring at Jake's house with a frown. And guess what? They don't like Stumpy one bit. Nope, not at all. To them, that goofy little gnome with the red hat isn't cute or funny, it's a problem. A big problem. They look at Stumpy and think, that thing doesn't belong here. Who do you think this person is? Let's keep that a secret for now. I'll give you a tiny hint, there's someone who likes rules a lot. They're the kind of person who gets mad if your trash can isn't lined up perfectly or if your dog barks one time too many. But we'll get to them soon. For now, just picture them hiding behind their curtains, glaring at Stumpy like it's the worst thing they've ever seen. They're making a plan, and Jake has no idea what's coming. Isn't that wild? Stick around, because the story is about to get really, really good. Let's talk about Jake a little more. He's the kind of guy you'd want as a neighbor. He's nice, but not in a loud, pushy way. If you dropped your ball in his yard, he'd toss it back with a smile. If you said hi, he'd say hi back. He's got short brown hair and usually wears a plain t-shirt and jeans. Nothing fancy, just comfy clothes. He works at a little store downtown, selling tools and stuff like hammers and nails. It's not a big, exciting job, but Jake likes it. He comes home every day, sits on his porch with a glass of lemonade, and looks at Stumpy. Life is simple for Jake, and he's totally okay with that. Now, let's go back to that sunny afternoon. Jake's outside, watering his flowers with a green hose. The water sprays out in little sparkles, and the flowers' bright yellow ones look happy to get a drink. Stumpy's sitting there too, right by the porch, grinning like always. Jake gives him a little nod, like he's saying, "Hey, Stumpy, looking good today." Everything feels peaceful. The sun is warm, the air smells like fresh grass, and Jake's just enjoying his quiet day. But that sneaky watcher? They're not happy. They're still staring from their house across the street. Their eyes are locked on Stumpy, and their frown is getting bigger. They mutter to themselves, "That gnome is ugly. It's silly. It doesn't fit in our perfect neighborhood." They don't like anything that's different or fun. To them, everything has to be just right, boring and plain. And Stumpy? Oh, Stumpy is not boring or plain. He's bright and goofy, and that makes them mad. Here's a fun question for you, have you ever had a neighbor who's just too nosy? You know, the kind who's always peeking over the fence or asking too many questions. Maybe they complain about your bike in the driveway or your loud music. Tell me about it in the comments below. I want to hear your stories. I bet some of you have met someone like this watcher before. They're out there, keeping an eye on everything, ready to make a fuss. So, what's going to happen next? Will Jake keep enjoying his quiet life with Stumpy? Or will this grumpy watcher cause some big trouble? I'm not telling you yet. You've got to stick with me, because the story is just getting started. Imagine Jake, totally clueless, while someone's plotting against his little gnome. It's like a mystery waiting to explode. Who do you think is watching him? Maybe it's someone bossy, someone loud, someone who thinks they're in charge of everything. Any guesses? Let's find out together. Before we move on, let me say this, Jake doesn't know it yet, but his day is about to get flipped upside down. That sunny afternoon? It's not going to stay calm for long. Something big is coming, and Stumpy's right in the middle of it. So grab a snack, get comfy, and keep listening. This is going to be a story you won't forget. What do you think happens next? Drop your ideas below, and let's see if you're right. Okay, everyone, here's where the story starts to heat up. Remember Jake, the nice guy with the goofy garden gnome named Stumpy? Well, he's about to meet someone who's going to shake things up big time. Say hello to Karen. She's the HOA queen of the neighborhood. HOA stands for Homeowners Association, which is like a club that makes rules for how houses should look. And Karen? She loves those rules more than anything. She's the bossiest person on the block, and she's proud of it. Let me tell you about Karen. She's the kind of lady who walks around with a ruler in her pocket. Yep, a real ruler. She uses it to measure your grass to make sure it's not too tall or too short. If it's even a tiny bit off, she'll frown and shake her head. She's got sharp eyes and a loud voice, and she's always looking for something to complain about. If your mailbox is a little crooked or your trash can isn't perfectly lined up, guess what? Karen will write you a nasty note. She'll scribble it on bright yellow paper and stick it on your door, telling you to fix it or else. Everyone in the neighborhood knows her, and most people just roll their eyes when she starts talking. So, one day, something big happens. It's still that sunny afternoon we talked about before. Jake is outside, minding his own business, maybe humming a little song while he waters his flowers. Stumpy, his little gnome with the red hat and goofy grin, is sitting by the porch like always. Everything seems fine until Karen shows up. She doesn't walk over nice and slow like a normal person. Oh no. She storms over to Jake's place, her feet stomping on the sidewalk like she's on a mission. Her face is red, her eyes are squinting, and she's holding her phone in her hand like it's a weapon. She stops right in front of Jake's yard and points at Stumpy. That gnome is an eyesore, she snaps, her voice loud enough for the whole street to hear. An eyesore means something ugly that hurts your eyes to look at. To Karen, Stumpy isn't cute or funny, he's a disaster. She jabs her finger at him like he's a messy spill on the floor. It's hideous. It's silly. It doesn't belong here, she yells. She's so mad, you'd think Stumpy stole her lunch or something. Jake looks up from his watering can, a little surprised, but he doesn't say much yet. He's just standing there, watching her freak out. Karen keeps going. I'm calling 911, she says, waving her phone in the air. This violates every rule in the HOA book. Violates means it breaks the rules, and to Karen, that's the worst crime ever. She thinks Stumpy is ruining the whole neighborhood just by sitting there with his red hat and tiny shovel. She starts tapping on her phone, ready to tell the police about this emergency. Can you believe it? Calling 911 over a garden gnome. It's crazy, right? What do you think the police would say if they heard that? Now, Jake. He doesn't panic. He doesn't yell back or run inside to hide Stumpy. Nope. He just stands there, calm as can be, and shrugs his shoulders. Go ahead, Karen, he says, his voice nice and steady. It's like he's not even worried. Most people would get mad or scared if someone threatened to call the cops on them, but not Jake. He's super chill, like he knows something Karen doesn't. Her eyes get even narrower, and she glares at him, thinking she's totally in charge. She's sure she's got the upper hand, like she's winning this fight. But here's the thing, she's wrong. Oh, she's so wrong. Karen has no idea what Jake's hiding, and that's what makes this so exciting. Let's imagine the scene for a second. Picture Karen standing there in her bright pink shirt and flip-flops, her hair all puffed up like she just got out of bed. She's yelling and pointing, her phone pressed to her ear as she waits for the police to answer. Across from her is Jake, still holding his green hose, water dripping onto the ground. He's wearing his usual t-shirt and jeans, and his face is calm, almost like he's trying not to laugh. And there's Stumpy, right in the middle of it all, just sitting there with that goofy grin. It's like a showdown in a cowboy movie, but instead of guns, it's a gnome causing all the trouble. Karen thinks she's the smartest person around. She's sure that once the police hear about Stumpy, they'll come rushing over to take him away. She's already imagining Jake in big trouble, maybe even having to pay a fine or say sorry to the whole neighborhood. She loves being the boss, and she loves winning. But every time she looks at Jake's calm face, something feels off. Why isn't he mad? Why isn't he begging her to stop? It's like he's got a secret up his sleeve, and Karen's too busy shouting to figure it out. What do you think Jake's hiding? Let's think about it. Maybe he knows something about the rules that Karen doesn't. Or maybe he's got a trick ready to turn this whole thing around. It's a mystery, and that's what makes it so fun. I bet some of you have ideas already. Is Jake secretly a superhero? Does Stumpy have magic powers? Okay, maybe not that wild, but something cool is definitely going on. Drop your guesses in the comments. I want to hear what you think. Karen's still talking on her phone now. Yes, hello, 911? This is an emergency, she says, her voice all squeaky and loud. She's pacing back and forth in Jake's yard, kicking little rocks with her flip-flops. There's a horrible statue here ruining everything. It's breaking all the rules. She sounds so serious, like Stumpy is a giant monster instead of a tiny gnome. Jake watches her, his eyebrows raised a little, but he doesn't move. He's like a statue himself, just waiting. The tension is building up, isn't it? That means things are getting exciting and a little scary, like when you're waiting for a big surprise. Karen thinks she's about to win, but Jake's calm face tells us something else. There's a secret brewing, something big that's going to change everything. Karen's too busy being mad to notice, but we're smart, we can tell something's coming. What could it be? Maybe Jake's not just a regular guy after all. Maybe he's got a plan, or maybe Stumpy's more important than anyone knows. So, here we are, Karen's on the phone with 911, Jake's standing there all cool and quiet, and Stumpy's just chilling like nothing's wrong. The neighborhood is quiet except for Karen's loud voice echoing down the street. Everyone's waiting to see what happens next. Will the police really come for a gnome? Will Karen get her way? Or will Jake's secret turn this whole thing upside down? Stick with me, because this story's about to get even better. What do you think Jake's hiding? Let me know below, I can't wait to see your ideas. Alright, friends, things are getting super exciting now. We're right in the middle of this crazy story, and it's about to get even wilder. Let's jump back in. Karen, the HOA queen, is still super mad about Jake's garden gnome, Stumpy. She's standing in Jake's yard, huffing and puffing like she just ran a race. Her face is all red, and she's holding her phone tight, ready to make some noise. She dials 911, and you can tell she's serious. She thinks this is a big deal. Karen starts talking to the 911 operator right away. Hello? Yes, this is an emergency, she says, her voice loud and squeaky. She's pacing around Jake's yard, kicking little bits of dirt with her flip-flops. There's a hideous statue here ruining our neighborhood safety. Hideous means super ugly, and to Karen, Stumpy is the ugliest thing she's ever seen. She keeps going, it's ruining our property values too. Property values are how much houses are worth, and Karen thinks Stumpy's goofy grin is making everyone's houses worth less money. Can you imagine that? She's so worked up, she's practically yelling into the phone. The operator on the other end? Well, they don't sound very excited. You can almost hear them yawn through the phone. The operator says, all bored and slow. They've probably heard lots of weird calls before, but Karen doesn't care. She's on a roll. It's a red hat gnome, and it's breaking every rule, she shouts. She's waving her free hand around like she's trying to swat a fly. To her, this isn't just a little problem, it's a giant disaster. She thinks the police need to drop everything and come save the day from Stumpy. Now, Let's check in with Jake. He's still standing there by his porch, calm as can be. The water from his hose is dripping onto the grass, making little wet spots. He's watching Karen flip out, but he doesn't look scared or mad. Nope, not even a little. His face is relaxed, like he's watching a funny show on TV. While Karen rants and raves, Jake just leans against the porch railing, one hand in his pocket. He's so chill, it's almost weird. Most people would argue back or try to stop her, but not Jake. Why do you think he's so calm? Something's definitely up. Here's where it gets juicy. While Karen's busy yelling at the operator, Jake's phone buzzes. You know that little shake your phone does when you get a text? That's what happens. It's in his pocket, and he hears it bzzz. He pulls it out real slow, just enough to peek at the screen. His eyes light up a tiny bit, and then get this, he smirks. A smirk is like a sneaky little smile, the kind you make when you know something nobody else does. He doesn't say anything out loud. He just slides the phone back into his pocket and keeps watching Karen. Oh, that smirk means trouble for someone. What do you think was on that phone? Maybe a message? A picture? Let's keep guessing. Karen's still going strong. Yes, it's an emergency, she repeats to the operator. You need to send someone now. She's so loud, a couple of neighbors peek out their windows to see what's happening. One lady even opens her door a crack, holding a cup of tea, just staring. Karen doesn't notice them, she's too busy being the loudest person on the block. She thinks she's winning this fight. She's sure the police will show up any second to take Stumpy away and tell Jake he's in big trouble. She's already imagining herself as the hero of the neighborhood, the one who saved everyone from that awful gnome. But then, something happens. Across the street, a police car rolls in. It's super quiet, way too quiet for a regular car. The tires barely make a sound on the road, and there's no siren or flashing lights. It's like the car is sneaking up on purpose. The windows are dark, so you can't see who's inside. It stops right by the curb, just a little ways from Jake's house. Karen doesn't see it at all. She's too busy shouting into her phone, her back turned to the street. Hurry up. This gnome is a danger, she says, stomping her foot. Jake, though. He notices. Oh yeah, he sees that police car right away. His eyes flick over to it, quick and sharp, like he was waiting for it. That smirk on his face gets a tiny bit bigger, but he doesn't move. He just keeps standing there, cool as a cucumber. A cucumber's a veggie that's always chill, and that's Jake right now. The car sits there, quiet and still, and nobody gets out yet. It's like a secret hiding in plain sight. Why do you think the cops are here? Are they really coming for Stumpy? Or is something else going on? Things are heating up fast. Let's picture this for a second. Karen's in the yard, her pink shirt all sweaty from yelling so much. Her flip-flops slap the ground as she paces, and her phone's pressed hard against her ear. She's so loud, even the birds stop chirping to listen. Jake's by the porch, Stumpy sitting next to him with that goofy grin. The gnome doesn't care about any of this, he's just happy to be there. And then there's that police car, parked sneaky-like across the street, waiting for the perfect moment. It's like a big game, and we're all trying to figure out who's going to win. Karen keeps talking. This guy doesn't care about the rules, she tells the operator, pointing at Jake even though they can't see her. He's ruining everything. She's so sure she's right, she doesn't even stop to think. But Jake's phone buzzing and that sneaky police car? Those are little clues that something big is coming. Karen's too busy being mad to notice, but we're not. We're smart, we can tell the story's about to twist. What's Jake's secret? That's the fun part. He's not freaking out, even with Karen calling the cops. He's not begging her to stop or hiding Stumpy inside. Instead, he's smirking and watching, like he knows something she doesn't. Maybe he's not just a regular guy who likes gnomes. Maybe he's got a trick ready to surprise everyone. And those cops? They're not making a sound, just sitting there. Are they here for the gnome, or is there a bigger reason? I bet you've got some ideas. Drop them in the comments, I want to hear what you think. Okay, everyone, hold on tight, this is the best part of the story. We're at the big moment where everything flips upside down, and you're going to love it. Let's dive in. The police car is parked across the street, sneaky and quiet, and now the doors open. Two cops step out. They're wearing dark blue uniforms with shiny badges, and they look super serious. One's tall with a hat, and the other's shorter with sunglasses. They start walking across the street, their boots tapping the pavement. Things are about to get wild. Karen sees them right away. She's still holding her phone, yelling at the 911 operator about Stumpy, Jake's little gnome. When she spots the cops, her eyes light up like she just won a prize. She drops the phone to her side and waves her arms like she's flagging down a bus. "Officers! Over here," she shouts, her voice all high and excited. She points at Jake, who's still standing by his porch, cool and calm. "Arrest this man for that awful gnome," she says, jabbing her finger at Stumpy. To her, Stumpy's red hat and goofy grin are a huge crime, and she's sure the cops are here to back her up. She's smiling now, thinking she's the big winner. But here's the crazy part: the cops don't even look at Jake. Not even a tiny glance. Their eyes are locked on Karen, and they keep walking straight toward her. Their faces are stern, like when your teacher catches you chewing gum in class. Karen doesn't notice at first, she's too busy pointing and yelling. "That gnome is ruining everything. Take him away," she says, bouncing on her flip-flops. But then the tall cop stops right in front of her and says, "Ma'am, we need to talk about your car." His voice is deep and serious, like he means business. Karen's mouth drops open. Her face, all red and sweaty from yelling, suddenly goes super white, like she's seen a ghost. "My car," she stammers, her hands freezing in the air. She looks confused, like she doesn't know what's happening. The cops nod. "Yes, your car," the shorter one says, pulling out a little notebook. "We've got some questions." Karen blinks fast, her brain trying to catch up. She thought the cops were here for Jake and Stumpy, but now they're staring at her. What's going on? Oh, this is getting good. Let's back up a tiny bit so you can see the whole picture. Jake's still by his porch, leaning against the railing with Stumpy sitting next to him. He's not saying a word, but that sneaky smirk from before is back on his face. He's watching everything, and he looks way too calm for someone who's supposed to be in trouble. Karen's standing in the yard, her pink shirt all wrinkled, and the cops are right in front of her, blocking her path. The neighbors are peeking out their windows now, curtains twitching as they try to figure out what's up. And here's the big secret: Jake isn't just a regular guy with a gnome. Nope. He's a part-time detective. That's right, Jake's got a secret job. He's not just mowing lawns and watering flowers. When he's not at his tool store, he helps the police solve sneaky crimes. For weeks, he's been watching Karen. Not because of Stumpy, but because she's been doing something shady. Shady means sneaky and bad, and Karen's been up to no good. Turns out, she's been selling stolen stuff from her garage, things like bikes, tools, and even a lawnmower that didn't belong to her. She thought nobody knew, but Jake did. He's been tracking her, writing down clues, and waiting for the right moment to catch her. Karen's 911 call? Oh, that was a huge mistake for her. She thought she was getting Jake in trouble, but really, she just made it super easy for the cops. They were already on their way because of Jake's detective work. He'd told them all about Karen's shady side hustle, and they were coming to check it out. When she called 911 about Stumpy, it gave them the perfect excuse to show up without her suspecting anything. Jake's smirk? That's because he knew the cops were coming for her, not him. Who saw that coming? It's like a big surprise party, but for Karen, it's not a fun one. Picture the scene, it's awesome. The tall cop flips open his notebook and starts reading. "We've got reports of stolen goods linked to your address," he says, looking right at Karen. Her eyes get huge, like saucers, and she starts shaking her head. No, that's not true," she says, but her voice is all wobbly now. The shorter cop steps closer and says, "We need to take a look in your garage." Karen's face goes from white to green, like she's going to be sick. She knows she's caught, and there's no way out. Jake finally moves. He steps off the porch, slow and easy, and walks over to the edge of his yard. "Hey, officers," he says, his voice friendly. "I've got some notes if you need them." The tall cop nods at him, like they're old buddies. "Thanks, Jake," he says. Karen's head snaps around, and she stares at Jake. You, she squeaks, like she can't believe it. Jake just shrugs, that smirk still on his face. Yep, me, he says. Been keeping an eye on you for a while. Karen's world is falling apart right there in Jake's yard. She thought she was the boss, the HOA queen who could boss everyone around. She thought Stumpy was her big victory, proof she could win any fight. But nope. Jake's the real winner here. He's not just a guy with a gnome, he's a detective who outsmarted her. The cops don't care about Stumpy's red hat or goofy grin. They're here for Karen's stolen stuff, and she's in big trouble. The neighbors are going wild now. Windows are open, and people are leaning out, whispering to each other. Did you hear that? One lady says, holding her tea. Karen's a thief, a kid yells from his bike. Everyone's shocked, but Jake? He's just standing there, calm and happy. Stumpy's still by the porch, grinning like he knew it all along. Karen's waving her arms, trying to explain. This is a mistake. I didn't do anything, she says, but the cops aren't listening. They're already heading to her house to check her garage. So, what do you think? Did you guess Jake was a detective? Or were you surprised like Karen? This is the big reveal, the moment where everything turns around. Karen thought she had the power, but Jake was one step ahead the whole time. That 911 call was her big oops, and now she's the one in trouble. Who saw that coming? Drop your thoughts in the comments, I bet you're as excited as I am. Stick around, because we're not done yet, let's see what happens next. Here we go, friends, this is where it all wraps up, and it feels so good. Karen's in big trouble now, and she can't believe it. She's standing there in Jake's yard, her face all red and sweaty, and she starts to stammer. This is outrageous, she yells, her voice shaky. I'm the victim here. She's flapping her arms like a bird, trying to make the cops feel sorry for her. She really thinks she's the one who's been hurt, not the bad guy. But the cops? They're not listening to her excuses. Not one bit. The tall cop shakes his head and pulls out some stuff from his pocket. We've got evidence, he says, holding up photos and papers. Evidence is proof that shows someone did something wrong. He's got pictures of Karen's garage full of stolen things, receipts showing she sold them, and get this, even a stolen lawnmower. The shorter cop nods and says, "You're coming with us." Karen's eyes get huge, and she starts to back away, but there's nowhere to go. The cops grab her arms and pull out shiny silver handcuffs. Click. They snap them on her wrists right there in front of Stumpy, Jake's little gnome. She's caught, and there's no escaping now. Jake's just chilling by his porch, leaning against the railing like he's watching a movie. He's got a can of soda in his hand, sipping it slow and calm. Bubbles fizz as he takes a drink, and he doesn't say much. He doesn't need to, everything's working out just fine. The neighbors can't help themselves, they're peeking out their windows, eyes wide. One lady pulls her curtain back, another guy sticks his head out his door. They're whispering, "Wow, Karen's going to jail." The whole street's buzzing, but it's a quiet buzz, like they're afraid to cheer too loud yet. Karen's not the HOA queen anymore. Nope, her days of bossing people around are over. She was a tyrant, that's someone mean who acts like they're in charge of everything. She'd yell about grass and mailboxes, but now she's the one in trouble. The cops start walking her to their car, her flip-flops dragging on the ground. She's still muttering, "This isn't fair," but nobody's buying it. The evidence is too strong, and Jake's detective work was too good. Her reign is done, and the neighborhood feels free again. Jake looks down at Stumpy, still sitting there with his red hat and goofy grin. He bends over and gives the gnome a little pat on the head. "Good job, buddy," he says, smiling. It's like Stumpy helped him win, even though he's just a little statue. The street goes quiet now, no more yelling, no more drama. The sun's still shining, the birds are chirping again, and everything feels peaceful. Jake's the hero nobody saw coming. He's not loud or showy, but he saved the day with his sneaky smarts. How's that for a twist? Karen thought she'd get Jake in trouble, but she ended up in handcuffs instead. Jake sips his soda, happy and calm, while the cops drive off with Karen in the back seat. The neighbors start coming out now, talking and laughing. "Jake's awesome," a kid says, riding by on his bike. And he's right, Jake's the real star here. What do you think? Are you cheering for Jake and Stumpy? Let me know below. Okay, friends, we've made it to the end of this awesome story. It's time to sit back, think about what happened, and feel good about it. Let's talk about what we learned. You know how Karen was super loud, yelling about Stumpy and acting like she was the boss of everything? Well, here's the thing, sometimes the people who make the most noise have the most to hide. Karen was all big and bossy, but she was the one doing sneaky, bad stuff like selling stolen things from her garage. She thought she could scare everyone, but she was the one who got caught. Then there's Jake. He was quiet, just chilling with his gnome, Stumpy. He didn't yell or fight back when Karen got mad. He stayed calm, sipping his soda and watching her make a fuss. But guess what? The quiet ones can be the strongest. Jake didn't need to be loud, he was smart and sneaky in a good way. He was a detective, watching Karen for weeks, and he saved the day without anyone even knowing it was coming. Isn't that cool? Sometimes the people who don't talk a lot are the ones who do the biggest things. Think about that for a second. Maybe you've got someone loud in your life like a kid who brags all the time or a grown-up who's always bossing people around. They might seem big and important, but they could be hiding something. And then there's the quiet kid in class, the one who doesn't say much but always has a clever idea. That kid might just surprise you one day, like Jake did. It's like a secret superpower, being quiet but strong. Next time you're outside and see a garden gnome, give it a little wink. You know, just a quick eye squint to say hi. Why? Because you never know what secrets it's keeping. Stumpy looked like just a silly statue with a red hat and a goofy grin, but he was part of something huge. He didn't do anything himself, he's a gnome, after all, but he was right there while Jake turned the tables on Karen. Maybe gnomes are good luck, or maybe they're just fun to have around. Either way, they make you wonder what's really going on. So, what did you think of this story? Was it exciting? Funny? Did you cheer when Karen got caught? Drop your favorite part in the comments below, I want to hear all about it. Maybe you liked when Jake smirked at his phone, or when the cops walked right past him to Karen. Or maybe Stumpy's goofy face was the best part for you. Tell me everything. Let's keep the fun going and share our ideas. Here's one last thing to take with you: you don't have to be loud to be awesome. You can be quiet, watch what's happening, and still be the hero. Jake showed us that, and it's a pretty cool lesson. So keep your eyes open, be kind, and maybe even get a gnome for your yard. Who knows what adventures you'll have? See you in the comments, friends. Let's talk.